Pulovinaka, Talofa. My name is Paolile Luteru, and I'm the permanent representative of Samoa to the United Nations, and is also ambassador to the US. The negotiations that are taking place at the moment in terms of the biodiversity in areas beyond national jurisdiction is of critical importance to small island developing states. You will recall that expectations were that negotiations would be completed last year. Unfortunately, that was not to be the case. So we're hoping that the end of next week we will have agreement on a legally binding treaty. I think it's important to put it in context why this is important for small island developing states. And it's important because biodiversity impact on our livelihood, it impact on our prosperity, it impact on our sustainable development, and also security and survival. So when you consider these issues, it's almost to say that these are at the center of some of the concerns that we have. I think there are others, and one of the things that is of critical importance when we address some of these issues is that we need to recognize that working in silos in addressing these challenges is not the way to go, because they're of the interconnected nature, the multidimensional nature of some of these challenges. My understanding at the moment is that there are a number of issues which remains to be resolved, areas of divergence, and I hope that over the coming days the negotiators will be able to identify and agree on landing zones where they can then start working in terms of specific texts that everyone can agree to. And one of these areas is in the MGR. MGRs are very important, and issues like benefit sharing is one of those issues that needs to be agreed to. And for us, it is important. I think it's extremely important because it touches on principles such as equity and fairness. So there is some differences of views in terms of how we should construct these to ensure that those principles are captured in the text. Capacity building, I think this goes without saying, because a lot of, or all of us, small island development states, that is one of the key challenges that we face. We're very small. We don't have the capacity that perhaps our more influential and rich countries have. So we need to look at how we can have that capacity so that we can deal with the issues in an effective and timely manner. Transfer of marine technology, again, is another area of divergence at the moment. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail at this stage, but we're hoping that our friends from the north will come around to our position, and an agreement can then be reached. Which, if you look at issues that are or we are already involved with in the Pacific, like MPAs. You know, those are areas where we need areas management or base management tools. So again, we need to agree on those. One of the critical areas for the alliance of small island states, of which Samoa is currently the chair, is the recognition of the special circumstances of small island states. And I think that that is critical. The difficulty is that at the moment there is a pushback from other developing regions. They are also arguing that they are also vulnerable and they also have special circumstances. But this is something that is not new in negotiations, and it's always been accepted that small island development states have special circumstances that set them apart from all the other developing countries. And it's the same sort of principle and thinking that led to the development currently of what we call the multi-dimensional vulnerability index. And that is something that we're working on at the moment. It's critical to the sustainable development of small island development states because it touches not only on the economic sort of factors that affect our development, but very much on environmental, climate change, and social indicators and factors that are important. And we're looking at completing this exercise of the multidimensional vulnerability index by June. The report will then go to the General Assembly in December, and we hope that implementation will then begin immediately thereafter. The uses and the importance of the MVI can be looked at in 3-4 areas. The first one, it allows small island development states to access concessional finance in a way, you know, to even the playing field, because at the moment it's not, in as far as small island development states are concerned. The second aspect is, as you know, with the COVID, a lot of our countries who are very dependent on tourism had to close borders, and that affected our economies. And now we are faced with the dilemma of whether we pay our debts or we meet what we have promised in terms of our SDGs commitment and obligation. So the MVI hopefully will lead us to a situation where we will establish or assist in the establishment of a sustainable debt regime that can benefit small island development states. The third use, we hope, is, as you know, small island development states have always argued that the GNI, the GDP measure in terms of ODA allocation by our partner, is not adequate for obvious reasons. You know, you can be a high income country or middle income countries and sit. A cyclone comes, wipe your development back 10, 20, 30 years. It doesn't differentiate between whether you're poor or rich. So it's a difficult situation. And we hope that the MVI will be a supplement to the GDP measure in terms of ODA allocation. And I think that's important. And finally, the MYI should also provide countries at the national level with an opportunity or a process where they can pinpoint areas where they need to focus. So one of the things we're doing is that we're looking at indicators under each of the vulnerability, resilience pillar, and then under those pillars, we have categories of economic, environment, and social, and those are then framed around indicators. So having those indicators will give countries the opportunity in terms of focusing on those areas where they need to concentrate or focus more on in terms of development, sustainable development, the SDG, etc. So that's basically the situation, but we're hoping that negotiation will be completed, during the allocated time. But there are other developments also. This is just one part of it. Obviously, we will go to Paris soon for the plastic negotiations. And as you know, the ocean is one of our key priorities. And the health of the ocean, the governance of the ocean, the management of the ocean. These are all very important. And within AOSIS, we have those three pillars that frame our mandate. One is climate change, the second one is ocean, and then sustainable development. So we all have to, address this in a sort of multi-dimensional, interconnected sort of way. We can't just focus on one because everything is interconnected.